Okay, let's talk about comets. You know, icy, rocky bodies, but they think they're mostly ice, kinda. It's kind of a slush monster. And they fly in and out of the solar system we have here. And as they start to get closer to the sun, they leave this streaming tail that's around them and start emitting off their bodies some type of radiance. Some of them worse than others. Halley's Comet's real famous and so on. Whenever I was a kid, I got to watch the comet Kohoutek come through. We looked at it through a telescope and stuff, and it was weird. You saw it going one angle for a while, and then after a while, it was bending around going like this when you were looking at it again. And that's because when it goes around the sun is blowing that crap off of it, right? And so it's directly kind of facing away from the sun regardless of where it is. So when it whips around the sun, it changes that direction quite a bit. Regardless of that, I'm having to redo this series. More information has come about, strangely, while I was waiting to be unbanned. And so let's take a look at this. For this was came out on April 1st, and some people had thought that it was some type of scary April Fool's kind of crap, but indeed it was not at all. It's a comet known as Atlas. And they say ancient comet Atlas measures half the size of the sun and it's back. Oh no. Well, it's really not that big. Its aura around it is that big. So, really, that's not quite a correct statement, is it? But as we talk about this, I have another video coming that got to do with Randall Carlson. I found a couple of more videos where he really goes into depth and kind of shows some exact pictures and some things that I had found, and he's talking about them, and I'd like to add a little bit to it, that some little things that he doesn't say, and kind of do a pull together whenever we do that video. But this one is going to be separate about it, but there'll be more than one information in here, and I want to show you the moon, and I hope that footage doesn't get blocked somehow. But a huge icy rock comet Atlas is currently in the constellation of Ursa Major, and that's the Big Dipper, or the Mama Bear, or Ursa being the bear, the Great Bear, in the northern sky, passing through the orbit of Mars. So it's about to come past us. But whenever we think about things like this, you have to realize that whenever you see like all the planets and they're supposedly orbiting around, that if the comet's coming through here and Mars is over here, there's no chance of it hitting anything. Now that's going to come important a little bit later, but surely you get that idea. And a lot of times we're on a flat disk, but they come in at these angles, and it changes after they come in because they come a trans-Neptunian object, and that changes things a lot. And in a recent set of videos I watched where there were people giving dissertations at colleges and stuff, I've been going deep into it while I've been banned here, in certain aspects, and they talk about how one of them was surprising, and I thought about doing a video on it, but I'll probably get banned because it was out of Yale, and the man was talking about how Jupiter saves us all because it sucks up all the asteroids, and showed the comet Schumaker Levy back in the day where it broke into pieces and it came running in a string of pieces and then hit it, and we realized that every impact on there was bigger than the Earth, and that if any piece of that hit the Earth, that was going to be the dinosaur thing again, at least. all over again. Now they've looked at the Chicxulub crater and the size, and half of those chunks that hit Jupiter were bigger than that. Of course, whenever it comes into our atmosphere, some of it blows up a little bit, but there is so much kinetic punch coming from that asteroid. Bam! You know, you can think of a bullet and how fast it goes, and then it's like volumes faster whenever you say something's coming in at 30 to 70,000 miles an hour. Quite often that helps it to explode and blow up, and if there was a chunk of aggregate comet coming in, it would pretty much disintegrate like the space shuttle or something as it came in and fractionate out, if not coming into Earth, if not if it was fractionated before. But anyhow, as it comes in, it'll strafe, type. And if you watch the simple ones like they did up in Russia where it comes in, you'll see it burning up, and it looks like, that's the shooting star. But if that was at night, which they've seen some at night and everything, it lights up the sky like day for a while. It's incredible. Anyhow, it's on a trajectory with our sun, and it will get progressively brighter as it reaches its closest point at the end of May, if it doesn't fragment, that is. And so it's going to come and, like my pointer here, it's going to come at an angle here and then go around the sun. Well, around the sun. And as it does, there's going to be a lot of torque on that thing, and it can fractionate. And whenever it does, and it comes out, usually whenever they see them try to burn up, it changes because they're getting so burned up, and whenever that mass is one piece and it lets loose, like a bunch of kids holding their arms on skates and you're slinging them around and you let them loose, they go out at an angle, and you'll get this V-ing effect to explosion of it. But then they also try to pull back into a common trajectory, but not close, kind of meh. And that's the type of thing that we run into in the Taurid meteor shower that I talk about, in the Leonid, different meteor showers we have during the year. And there's one early and there's one late, and the late one is right there at Halloween, and this is the one that goes with it, and the reason for the Day of the Dead, like I've talked about in my earlier videos. If look up my video on symbology of Halloween, probably just go to my channel and click in Halloween there, and you should see a couple of them, and it'll talk about this. And we're going to go into it again on that other Randall Carlson video. I'm going to try to go in depth on it. But its closest point at the end of May, and if it doesn't fragment, that is. Now, so coming up here this next month, and it's going to be flying past us here, and we'll get a good look at it. And I'll show you what it kind of looks like right now in a second. But the comet's last Earth flyby was sometime around 4000 BC, and that might be quite important too, for that would put it about the time we were talking about a destruction that had happened, and the Sumerian people knew about it. And was this the planet of the crossing in some way, or is this one of the stories? Is this shown in anything? Well, it was witnessed by early ancient Egyptian farmers, as well as Neolithic tribes in Ireland, northern Scotland, and across Scandinavia. But this most recent past was first spotted on December 28th, 2019, by the Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System. So it's an Atlas system, and it picked it up, and I guess they wanted to put that on it. And some people think that it's odd that they put names like the Greek and Roman gods on the planets and all of their moons and things and stuff. And there's Comet Inky, and here we have Comet Atlas and things. And the story of the one who flew too high and had to have his dad's ride his sun chariot and burn across the earth and things like that, that probably has something to do with this situation. Or another time during that, there could have been a lot of these to happen. This wasn't just some simple little thing. But I don't like the name of that. The Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System. Well, what first alert system do we have? And what secondary do we have? And man, we need to get a couple of these things going on here, because recently, here just at the end of last year, we had two asteroids fly right by us, and one of them was huge. And it's because it was oblong, they would have probably broken into two pieces coming in and still made it, and it would have caught, if it landed in London, there would be no London. In two pieces. Imagine if it landed in the ocean and caused a great tidal wave. Things that could happen out of it. Listen, I'm not trying to fearmonger. I'm trying to rationale what had happened to us in our past. I found that looking at Randall Carlson's things, and apparently a definition they've been giving these people is catastrophists. And I know that term from an old term where these people were saying that some bad things had happened to the earth in rapid succession and different times, and that had caused it, and they thought, hey, that's what caused the dinosaurs and everything and all that, and blah blah blah, that's what's causing the big changes. And then there became these naturalist type guys that said, no, it's just slow rain and erosion and time, and nothing ever happened. And one person came out and said, no, the dinosaurs killed off, and da-da-da, and here's the impact and the black mat and the stuff that happened, and they made a fool of him for 14 years. Until all of a sudden Texas oil people were down in the Gulf and drilling around, and they suddenly realized they were in this gigantic crater that had happened over there at Chicxulub, Yucatan Peninsula, and that was it. And it was fairly undeniable, and all of a sudden they agreed with it. Now you know about it, and it's the dinosaurs killed off 65 million years ago. I think everybody's real familiar with that one. They always know about dinosaurs and stuff and things, and the dinosaur movies that when you were a kid that shows the great thing that happened, and stuff. Not the one with the weasel and the mammoth, the other one. It shows the catastrophe. I forget exactly what it's called. Somebody can write it in bottom and everything, but it kind of hints to that. I'd probably like to use some footage of that, but man, you can't use more than a few seconds of footage of that nowadays. Anyhow, last alert system. Don't like that. The comet's atmosphere, or corona, if you will, measures 5 times the physical size of Jupiter and about half the size of the sun. And scientists say that by the end of April, the space rock will appear brighter than Venus in our night sky. As it approaches our inner solar system, the comet will become one of the brightest objects in the night sky, and according to a daily report, potentially the comet of a generation. Because it's throwing off this corona and getting brighter, and it seems to be a whole lot brighter than it should be even at this time. And they're saying, well, Venus is the brightest star and the bright and morning star, and this is going to blow it away. And you can imagine in elder times, whenever people had this Venus and bright and morning star, and these old astrologers and stuff that were helping to make the world go around, if you will, that they would have seen something like this, and it would have been important as to which constellations it was coming through, all kinds of things about it like that. But because whenever it would outshine Inanna, or Venus, that would be something, and it could be the sign of a second coming. Oh snap. And maybe it was for people a lot longer ago than really is recorded. For like the stories we found in Sumerian things, they go back into an age where they already had that, and they tell you this is an old story. So, at the beginning of time, before bread was broken and stuff like that. So, that tells you this could go back, and I think it very well does go back to a lot earlier. And though the Bible tried to pin it down at some 4000 BC-ish, we know it goes far past that now. We have Göbekli Tepe and the Lords of Arata that even the Sumerians spoke about. And I'm going way out in left field like I usually do, don't I? 5 times the physical size of Jupiter. So if it was coming by Earth close, it would have this corona that would just envelop our planet of stuff that's coming off of it. Even though it would be, say if it came in between the moon and Earth, the moon would be pelted with a bunch of this stuff, and the Earth would be too. We'd get the hellish meteor storm probably, but it would be little ones that burned all up, hopefully. But the central size of this thing, we're getting better and better at an idea of it, but this thing is huge. And it broke off of an earlier comet. They're going to speak about it. Now, cosmic giant spewing into space. According to a recent ABC News piece, Michael Yeager from Australia, the scientist who captured image of the Comet Atlas, or formerly Comet C2094A, starts to sound like COVID, described as a brilliant suicidal comet that baffles astronomers. The exact size of the icy rock isn't known because its corona is so big. We had that problem with another one that we had, oh man, I don't know, what was it, 15 years ago now, that you couldn't get a centered onto it because all of the corona around to it. And so the idea of like, well, it is spewing out this stuff, but what was the size of the chunk in the center? And they use different type of telescopes and radio telescopes and infrared and stuff, and then we're able to pull out by using all three over each other and blowing off the mist what it would look like. The exact size is not known though, but it's likely to only be a few miles across with a much larger atmosphere. Now, other people have argued, and this one thing that I saw that said it couldn't have that large of an atmosphere if it was that small, unless it was just this suicide situation coming out of nowhere. But it seems to be on the trajectory. If they follow the trajectory of it now, and they go, this is the one that's come around a few times, and it has a long roll. It comes in every 6,000 years. But no, it could come before once. So it almost has this cycle that sounds like a Nibiru situation, but I'm not going to go there with this at all. But there could be periodic comets that cause a problem like this. Now this is it right here. And it's throwing off its corona, and if you look, the tail is kind of down this way right now, and I think this picture's on its side. And it's glowing green, and it's off of carbon that's giving off of it. In fact, they say in the darker reaches of space, it wouldn't be lit up at all, for it would be kind of sooty and carbon, and you know that new carbon stuff that's blacker than black, you know. So until it starts coming in and gets close, and something like this last da-da-da picks it up, and all of a sudden it just fires up like a firework and is roaring, and they're like, wow. And we're lucky that it's not headed at us. But a gaseous cloud surrounding the comet has a diameter measuring 447,387 miles, or 720,000 kilometers, which is half the size of the sun's diameter of 865,370 miles. I'm going to do a video shortly, and I'm going to explain to you how they figured out how big the sun is, how big the moon, and how far away the moon is, how far the sun is, how far different planets are, and where it comes out in this Greek thing. But it comes from older things, you know, the Library of Alexandria, and they're able to look through and things and figure stuff all out, and Archimedes and different people that really are key points in our history, but it seems to be that they're culminations in a way, with their names and so on, kind of pinpoints that. But we'll get into that aspect here shortly. But it's something that no one talks about in a soon video. But the Earth lags some way behind in the size with a 7,900 mile or 1,200 kilometer diameter. But we need not fear that, as the comet poses no dangers to us, as it will pass more than 72 million miles away from our planet. So we're over here and they're over there. So it's kind of like you got a ball on a string. You ever played tetherball? So it's kind of like a ball on a string and they're spinning around, and somebody's going to throw a golf ball in there. And if the golf ball hits your spinning deal, you're gone. But he's just going to throw it at random, because it's all at random, and it was coming from a long time ago. Say you spin the tetherball and somebody from 100 yards ago throws in a golf ball that's going to come into that trajectory. And whatever happens, happens. And I don't know how many golf balls you'd have to throw, but it wouldn't matter. For only one golf ball, and then no one would be talking about golf balls anymore. According to a report by Space Weather Archive, the Comet Atlas has a tail about the same size as its atmosphere and spews prodigious amounts of gas and dust into space. The last bright comet visible without a telescope in the northern hemisphere was 1997, passing Hale-Bopp. That was the one where the people all killed themselves and wore the brand new shoes and covered themselves, and they thought they were going to go ride a comet off because it was there was a spaceship in the back of the comet. That crazy guy, what was his name? Applewhite? Anybody remember that? Makes this an unexpected event a rare occurrence for astronomers, according to the astronomy website. This is Hale-Bopp as it turned. And you can see how it's venting off that blue a bit, off of this side. Let me see if I can get it to even darken just a hair. There, maybe it looks a little better, but this thing is just super bright. But the blue side that's on it here, so it's in the middle of doing this turning, coming around and whipping. And this is whenever we got our best shots of it, I guess, or one of the best shots, 1997. So, tracking the glowing green sun-bound icy rock. So they make it sound twice now like it's bound to just burn up in the sun. It's going towards the sun. The comet is presently passing through the orbit of Mars with a diameter twice the size of all the other major planets in the solar system combined. And you can see now with binoculars, because it is already much brighter than the astronomers expected it to be at this point, even after seeing it and going, oh wow, look, a firework. Then all of a sudden it's peeking out pretty bright here. So it's another idea that it might be losing its crap, if you will, and falling apart, are going to disintegrate. But because it had happened before and before and before, do they think this is the last hurrah? Do they have the trajectory on it yet? And it's because it's supposed to whip around the sun fairly wide. Now these planets are semi in scale, but nowhere in near in difference and far the way of references for being the sun. We're not close like this. Everybody realizes that. But right now it's coming through Mars and just about to come by Earth, and we're going to get our best shot of it right here as it passes us. And there's Venus, and it's going to be brighter than all of Venus's light whenever it's at Venus, for sure. And it's going to come past Mercury and whip around and then come back out. And we're way the hell away from it now. But where are we in relation to where all that whips back out at? And once it whips back out, if it disintegrates and comes around and fractionates and actually busts into pieces and does a shotgun effect, that might end up being something to watch for running into. And it's going to be hard to keep up with, because it may start out as a cluster in this one part, and they'll kind of keep up with the trajectory of a cluster. And will it be 4,000 more years, and all we do is just tablet date it down on a clock or a calendar, or will it totally ruin that and things are going to totally change? Anyhow, I want to get on to this other part of this, and how long am I getting? I'm already 25 minutes almost. Comet Atlas is currently near Mars's orbit, has a diameter twice the size of the other major planets in the solar system combined, and half the size of Mars. Daniel Brown, an astronomer expert at Nottingham Trent University, told the Times that it's definitely a promising comet that is pushing towards a level that by the end of April could look really, really stunning. The astronomer explained that the distinctive green color seen around the comet comes from a diatomic carbon, a molecule commonly found in comets that emits a beautiful green glow when in gas form in the near vacuum of space. Here is the speculation among astronomers that Atlas might be related to the Great Comet of 1844, so this would have been a whole lot more recent at coming around instead of just being the one. But this is a noted comet, and they were like, didn't know when it was going to come back, and apparently didn't get accurate enough trajectory off of it because this is unexpected. As it follows a similar trajectory, though, and both Atlas and the Great Comet had both separated from a much larger comet born in the early days of the solar system, apparently, maybe, or from one that disintegrated into multiple pieces and shotgunned itself, like what happened with the spreading out of the, like Comet Inky and what ends up being the torrid and meteor storm that we run through. The trajectory of the larger comet would require a 6,000-year orbit around the sun that would take it beyond the outer edges of the solar system. So, Nibiru there. About 57 billion miles, or 92 billion kilometers from the sun, according to Dr. Brown. And I don't know how many AUs that is. Here's a little video of it, and I bet I'm going to have to reload to get it to show. So it's going to whip in and come out late and go right under Venus, right past Earth's trajectory, but we're late on it, and then Mars comes out late on it. And you see it coming here, and there it is, boom, and it's going up now. And it's going to go right in front of Venus and right in front of us and Earth. And Mars comes around late, but it's slowly casting past that. It's our original idea. Here's a bigger one. Sorry. So you see, after it whips around the sun, it actually comes into contact with the plane right here. Past Mercury, but Mercury's on the other side now. Ta-da! Here it comes up on Venus. So, where there's no chance of Atlas smashing into the Earth, this is sheer luck for our planet to have been continuously bombarded with comets since the Bronze Age. And this claim comes from NASA. In a 1998 paper entitled Earth, Air, Fire, and Water, the Archaeological Bronze Age Cosmic Catastrophes by scientists at Harvard and the University of Hawaii. The paper opens by saying planetary scientists and astrophysicists have recently begun to model the potential hazards on Earth from the impact by asteroids and comets, and their models show 25 impacts in the last 5,000 years, roughly. Say from 3,500 years BC to now, at least 25 impacts. Now, you don't know about any of these, huh? Well, you just recently found out about the Hiawatha crater. That looks like it's one of the ones that can be in with the Younger Dryas event. But same thing as situation probably. I don't know if they're taking as a Tunguska situation as being one of these or what. But 25 impacts. NASA themselves have come out with this. Now this is back in a paper in 1998. And People called it fear mongering and bullshit back then too, and a lot of people were like, "Oh, but it'll never happen to us. We haven't seen none." But everybody keeps wanting to perk up to this idea, and it would be just so sad if like millions of people were perking up to the idea as something happened to us and we were all gone because duh. And so I think it should be looked in at least whatever we're doing now, at least double that, and consider that the norm for a good long while until we feel like we've really got control of the situation. With so many cultures having been affected by comet collisions and maybe civilization as we know it having been inspired by such events, it is little wonder why when comets appeared in the ancient skies, oracles and shamans and holy men regarded them powerful prophetic symbols associated with impending doom. It is only in the last century, with the luxury of space telescopes and astroscientists, that such fears have been dissolved in society. Literally through the 1800s, there was still that idea going on. It is only in our modern age, it is only a few generations old, and the concept that, oh, don't worry about it. Until you get that dreadful email or text from the Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System, that is. I want to look at something now to give you an idea of what I'm talking about and what catastrophist, apparently I'm one of those now too. I've get some ists on me. But what's just simply we can find, and people can see it. You can go out your door and see this very easily. So not going to let me lock you on. Seriously, I don't want to edit this out. Okay, I'm gonna have to. So we're just gonna look at some raw moon footage here. Oh, by the way, I've got to go through all kinds of hell now just to upload things. I've got to make it go back on the old system and then do this fake thing for it to pull it up, and then do it a few times. I think I've got it just about figured out. You wouldn't believe how many things I've got pulled up ready to do a video on. Some of them more important than others, but all of them a piece of the web that you may or may not be aware of, and it makes a difference eventually. Scythians and Nefertiti and 9,900-year-old skeletons, 15,000-year-old rock art, metals of the Bronze Age, the Mini-Huni and dwarf people of ancient times, Chinese sword found in Georgia. Finally. Sorry guys, but hey, at least I got to yap until then. One's having trouble loading too. That's just wonderful. So whenever you see craters, this guy is zooming in quite a bit. What I want you to note is that, like, this crater happened before this crater because this crater's lip is overlapping and pushed into that one. Now, it could have been 1 hour before, or it could have been 40,000 years or more, but that's what happened. right? So I can get this out just a hair more. So in the center, you see this block here, and in the center of this block here, the thing that makes this huge crater is not as big as this. It's not even as big as this block usually. It's somewhere around half that size or less. And it hits with so much kinetic punch, it just pops a chunk right out of it, right? I will probably get flagged for that music, so let's just go with that. Sorry. Be nice to have some music. And you can see craters that have a dot that are stuck right in them. So that one had two other little craters that happened after it happened. It's all wiggly and stuff real bad because you're looking through Earth's atmosphere. Whenever you can get to look not between it, not where there's a cold sky and a warm ground, where there's a difference, it won't do near this bad. Still, with this wiggling around though, in your eye and optics, you can get a good idea of it, but you know that, it's doing its optic problem too at the same time, so quite an issue. Well, what was I going to get at with this footage that's here? Well, what I want to get at, and something that I've said quite a few times, is that you don't see any oblong craters on the moon. I've looked, and it's few and far between, and you might get something as oblong as this right here, but that's really around the curve. When you look at it, it's straight on, it's flat. It's an oddity where two craters are connected somehow. It doesn't seem right, but that's just over from that other one. He's been filming, and then he clipped it into each other one. So here's a better idea of it. And this isn't the most cratered spot of the moon, and it appears to be a near full moon, and he's filming over near the edge, but you see how many craters are on that moon. And the thing that came to my realization one time whenever I was just looking up at the moon, thinking about these things, being a kid stoned out one time, drinking beer and stuff with the buddies, and looking up at a full moon, and I said, "Day, you know what? See all those craters on that moon?" They said, yeah, there's a bunch of them all over. And I said, well, it makes up the man in the moon, and you can see hundreds of them. You get a telescope, you can really see it's just pocked up. It's like been shot with buckshot bad. Big ones and huge. There's some huge spots in it. They go, yeah, well, kind of like, what's your deal and everything on that. And I go, every single one of those came right over our shoulder. He said, what? I said, well, the moon's facing us constantly, right? And so if they have a round circle on the moon, you'd either say it was shot from Earth or something came right over our shoulder and hit it at a square point. So something came right over our shoulder. And what I was getting at earlier to tell you that, Jupiter, and it saves everything. Well, if Jupiter's over here, and it comes over here, it doesn't do anything, and it flies right by. There's no Jupiter stopped anything or anything like that goes on. So sure, Jupiter catches some, but it's remarkable what Jupiter doesn't catch. Now imagine this fact. This crater right here would pretty much do a dinosaur thing to Earth. And this one and that one would come close and screw and set us all back. And all these littler ones would do an incredible problem to us over a large period of time. It's too bad I'm not in the right spot at this place, because there's a place like this, and there's a crater this big on the moon, shattered out with all these other little ones in it, and you look at it and you realize, oh my God, that's a huge crater with all those other ones in it. And that would have been, Earth's probably cracked like a frickin' egg gone. For it seems to pop the moon and made it have all this surface rock onto it, and may have helped to make it tidally locked with us by getting too much of its weight forward and everything. And it's tidally locked, meaning it's always facing us. So even though this is zooming past one edge of it, you can see, I can't see an oblong crater in any of those. But what I can see is about 35, 40 times that something came right over our shoulder. And there's 5 more, and here's 5 more, and 10, and oh my God, look at the size of that one, and this one. Hey, the man in the moon's eyes. And it's seriously something to think about. And again, I don't want to be a fearmonger, but whenever you see something like these three that are in cluster, and that's what he was filming up close a minute ago, and you can see it's only a half moon, so we were getting that cast-off situation. This side is way covered with craters, and this is part of the man and the moon, and so this makes that sea, and the oceans they have on there, Sea of Tranquility and all of this. But that is one big crater strike right there that would have easily surpassed the one that we give credit for doing the dinosaurs. I don't know if you can see it, but even though there's those three right there, there is this big crater that is this big. See if I can get the edges of it. That is this big. Can you see it? That it encompasses all of those, and they say each one of those would have been one of those set us back ones. So what about this huge one? Oh, that would have been a gone. Okay, what about this one that I'm in the middle of right here? Or this one that's starting to fade and half of it's only in the light. So, again, hey, don't want to be a fear-mongering punk or anything like that, but these type of things have been worrying me since I was a child, whenever I started reading about this and I found out about it. And I guess I really was a catastrophist, because I've always felt that everybody says the second coming of God and all these things are going to happen. I said, we're going to wipe the shit out, and people are later going to go, we did something wrong and God did da-da-da. And just like they talked about the people of Atlas and how they had gotten a little bit too haughty and didn't pay enough attention and da-da-da. Well, they were great astrophysicists and everything, but apparently they didn't pay attention right, and all of a sudden, wham, they were gone in a day and a night. Well, maybe that's a metaphor for being gone in a flash of time, or looking back 9,000 years as Plato was. Maybe that's just it. It happened just in a blink of an eye, and someone changed that tone, a blink of the eye to day and a night. What's a day and night? That's rapidly. Like what happened in Pompeii, and boom, it was gone. Oh, this was much bigger. That's the way they're describing it. Anyhow, we're going to get on to more videos and everything. I hated to draw this out. I threw some extra little stuff in there about what's coming up in other videos too, but keep attaching those threads and this concept. And again, I've got a Carlton video coming out too that'll have some information that really goes along with the Younger Dryas event, where it appears that we had a triple shot at least, pow 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 pow, was something that broke up into pieces and pepper shot us at the Younger Dryas event. And we have more ancient civilizations. For, did you know there are 10 or 12 places that are like Göbekli Tepe, and one they've already verified dating on as being older. Although I've said certain, they've only done a part of Göbekli Tepe, and they think that they found the oldest one. Or would it be that one that hasn't excavated yet, or this whole side, or is this is the new stuff? That's the old over there, and you haven't even excavated it. Who knows where it goes and what it spans, what the symbols that they may show on them, and everything else. And I hate the idea that they're stopping doing excavation and put a little tin over it, and they're just acting like, nah, the man died, so he finished off his things, so we're going to go with it. It's like, have somebody else pick up 100 yards over here. I mean, come on. There's stuff picking out, whenever they show that Graham comes over there at Hancock and with them and stuff, and he walks around there with them. There are just places all over. And I watched another video recently of this guy that went up there, and the scientist guys are waiting for some people to show up, and they just start walking around all over the hill showing them stuff at this site that no one's ever done before, that they just showed up at. So this guy went up there with his iPhone and stuff. He's like, what the hell's going on? It looked like something's going on, and they're like, oh, we're archaeologists, blah, 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 we're Göbekli Tepe and stuff, and he didn't know what they were talking about, but he filmed it. And they've got a little T-pillar sticking out, and this huge mound too, about 3/4 the size of Göbekli Tepe, maybe a little smaller. But we'll get to those soon. It's good to be back. Peace.